Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who are involved in a relationship where one of you is a Taurus and the other is an Aquarius. And this can be sun or moon. I'm including both because I think they can work in a similar way. And you may recognize some of the same behaviors or attitudes in the sun and moon positions. And earlier today, I did a tarot reading where I was talking about these two signs in combination, and I wasn't sure if I had done a video on it yet, so I guess I haven't. And I think it's an interesting kind of comparison to look at. So when you're talking about Taurus and Aquarius, you're talking about two fixed signs. If you know anything about the different sun signs and the types of attributes that each one possesses, you will know that people very often will say that Taurus is a stubborn sign. And the truth is that while that can be very, very true, I have Taurus rising, I can attest to that. But it's also true that Taurus is not the only sign that is like that. The other fixed signs besides Taurus are Aquarius, Leo, and Scorpio. The opposite sign of Taurus is Scorpio. And Leo is the opposite sign of Aquarius. And all four of these signs can have those that type of behavior. But Taurus is the one that everybody looks at. And so when you have two fixed signs that are getting together, like Taurus and Aquarius, it's forming a square. I have to make that qualifier because Taurus and Scorpio oppose one another since they're opposite signs. A square, which Taurus and Aquarius form, as well as Taurus and Leo, is a challenging aspect, and an aspect are two planets within a certain degree from one another. The angle that they make can be considered more challenging or easier, and it's just how they cooperate with one another depending on what planets are involved. It can give you the idea of what is going on. Now here we may be talking about the two sun signs, or a sun and a moon sign. And a square, which is what Taurus and Aquarius form, is going to be frustrating. It's a frustrating angle. It creates a blockage, a square is a block. Obstacles, maybe like butting heads, a feeling like there's an impasse there. And this could mean that the two people have a hard time understanding each other. The motivations, what they're into may be quite different. And so suffice it to say, this can be an irritating aspect. However, there are times when we find ourselves attracted to just these types of people. And we may be like kind of scratching our heads or feeling, why is that? I have read that physical attraction in particular can come when you are dealing with somebody that you square off to. It's also important to note that not all Taurians and Aquarians will form squares with one another depending on their sun or moon sign degrees. It has to be within a certain degree span. However, I'm broadening this because I don't think it's that deep, and I think that just what each sign represents can be enough to really kind of predict what kind of how they will get along or how they won't get along. And I have to confess something. I've done a number of these compatibility videos, and this was one of the few. I don't know if I did one with Cancer and Aquarius, maybe Cancer and Sagittarius, where it was very hard to find common ground. Okay, but it's important to note that, let's say you're a Taurus and you're involved with an Aquarius person. It's important to note that you may have the moon in Aquarius, you may have the moon in Sagittarius, and they may have the moon in Cancer. And you just kind of have those cross aspects that are very harmonious. And you may have a lot more in common than just talking about this particular video. So you know more than I ever would whether or not you're getting along with that other person. So it's not about me telling you what you're doing, you know. And so I'm always of the belief that people can come together in many different ways for many different reasons, and it's really not, nobody has the ability to judge what relationship is going to survive and which one is going to fail. You can have something good on paper and it doesn't work out in real life. So in terms of what I found with common ground, I think both signs are steadfast, stable signs, being fixed signs. Now, that was the only thing I could really find that they both have in common, is the fact that they're fixed signs. Oh, I just thought of another one that I'll bring up. But you might say, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, there are a couple things. First of all, fixed signs do not throw in the towel at the first sign of trouble. And if you get somebody who's a mutable sign, they may have a certain fickle quality. And I say may because I am a sun in Sagittarius, which is a mutable sign. I have 7 mutable planets in my chart, and I don't consider myself all that fickle, but I have Taurus rising, so that might be kind of an anchor, and that might be very powerful when you have it in, the sun, moon, or rising, to kind of stabilize the person's approach to life. But there might be people out there who, if something doesn't work out, they don't want to invest the time in trying to make it work. They just move on to the next relationship. And when you're someone who wants to, who values continuity, you are going to plug away at something and make sure that it works. If you're a Taurus person, that's just how you roll, or an Aquarius. So you get both of you with the same modality, the fixed modality, and you may have that tenacity that allows you to stick around, and you never know if something could work. Maybe it's just an adjustment that needs to be made. And I just think in life in general, if people are very maybe they have a very well-worn routine that they live their life. So they have kind of they're not very chaotic in their schedules. They're very scheduled, and there's a sense of predictability where other people may not be like that, and that could be a little bit disturbing to somebody who is a fixed sign, because they like that type of stability in their life, that they can count on things, that they're going to be a certain way. And so you might appreciate that in one another. Another thing that I just thought of when I was talking here is that both of you may not be overly emotional. Aquarius is an air sign, and so it is operating from the intellect, from the analytical mind. Taurus is an earth sign, so there is a strong emphasis on rational thought, on the practical side of life, the tangible things in life. Can you prove it? Blah, blah, blah. Now, I will tell you that Aquarius is not as, logical as we would think they should be as an air sign, but that's something I'll get to in a minute. The bottom line is that neither one of you, in and of your sun signs, let's say, are emotional. Now, if this represents both of your moon signs, Taurus and Aquarius, then that will obviously be the case. The moon is your emotional nature. However, if you have a sun in Taurus and you have a moon in Pisces, obviously you're going to be a little bit more emotive. You're not going to just be as dry as a typical Taurus person might be. Likewise, Aquarius. And this is, Aquarius might have a moon in Scorpio and be quite intense emotionally, at least some of the time. And so I'm just going by what each of these signs represents. And the reason this can be a good thing is because the older I get, the more when I see people who have a triple air sign, for instance, like sun, moon, and rising in air signs, I think that they probably have a good ability to shrug things off, like in terms of if things happen to them that hurt their feelings or if they have disappointments in life, and they don't get consumed by those things because they keep a certain air of detachment where they can, and sometimes this can be like on the mental level, they can rationalize things. And that doesn't mean that it's completely emotionally, I don't want to say it's not emotionally healthy, because if you rationalize things and still are willing to see the truth in the situation, I think that can be healthy. But I'm referring more to people who are in denial. That can be problematic, if somebody's, habitually rationalizing things. However, it can also be a way for people to move on from disappointments and not get caught up in whatever is going on, mired in their disappointments, which sometimes people do, and it can be quite challenging. So, looking at it from that perspective, I can also see how people find themselves in a situation where they can't, get out of their own feelings, people who are more emotional. So both of you may not make these emotional demands on each other, and that can be very good for the relationship. Now let's talk about what can be challenging. Oh no, well, I'm going to still talk about how you can benefit each other, but it's not necessarily common ground. One person is giving to the other person. So Aquarius, one thing I said, Taurus can ground Aquarius. Aquarius is like the mad scientist. It's ahead of its time. You're ahead of your time if you're an Aquarius. And this can be, you can be very, brilliant. Aquarius is the inventor and things like that. So there's all this mental energy, but whether the person is able to have common sense and to do things that are practical is a different story. Some people are very in the upper chakras, which are the, fifth, sixth, and seventh chakras, and can be more abstract, theoretical, in their mind, in their, maybe higher planes of existence, but then they are wearing two different colors of socks, or they just can't tune into the mundane reality. And Taurus can help Aquarius with the more practical side of life. Aquarius can give Taurus new ideas, a new approach, a fresh approach to life. Taurus tends to like the tried and true. And this can be where there is conflict because Taurus may seem too conservative to Aquarius. Aquarius is the rebel, the nonconformist, and Taurus tends to be pretty conventional. Taurus people in general don't tend to like to do anything that is going to set them apart. And Aquarius has to. And Aquarians can be contrarians, actually, a lot of times, because Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is a house of the collective. And that means groups, humanity as a whole. And, Aquarians are known as humanitarians and things like that. But Aquarius doesn't like to conform. So they're not really playing well with others. They want to stand apart from the group. So isn't that, contradictory? They rule the house of groups, and yet they don't want to be part of the group. And Taurus is kind of like the path of least resistance. Taurus is ruled by Venus, whereas Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. And a lesser thing that is talked about, it's also ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is actually traditional. But when we talk about the attributes of Aquarius, we're usually talking about the Uranian ones. And so that could be a clash of somebody who is very, ahead of their time, and somebody who finds people who have purple hair to be weirdos, and may kind of like turn their nose up to anything that seems a little bit different from the norm. And that could be like a big bone of contention between these two signs. So that's one of the things where I would wonder, like, how would these two signs even get together in the first place? Like, how would they, what would attract one to the other? Another big area is this area of freedom. Okay, Aquarius is all about freedom, and even in romantic relationships could be as much as free love, that nobody owns another human being, and therefore nobody has the right to tell another person what they can do in their relationships. So this idea of an open relationship, polyamory, is right up Aquarius's alley. Doesn't mean that every Aquarian wants an open relationship, but it certainly is a concept that they may be open to at the very least, or that they embody just in how they deal with other people, that they might strongly dislike possessiveness in other people, or jealousy, things like that. This assumption that they have to conform to somebody else's expectations. That's what I mean by the rebellious quality with Aquarius, is it's very hard for them to conform. I mean, Taurus, they accuse Taurus of being stubborn, but I think that Aquarius may actually give them a real run for the money in that area because of the rebellious quality. So this may be a real sticking point, because Taurus is the ruler of the second house, which is a house of earned income, but also a house of possessions. And Taurus tends to see their partner as one of their possessions. And I don't mean that in an insulting way, that they are looking down at their partner as just being an object, like they're objectifying their partner, although in a lower expression, a Taurus person who is not very evolved, and there are some people like that out there. Let's say this is a male Taurus towards his girlfriend or wife. He may, or it doesn't, maybe his boyfriend, it could be a boyfriend or his husband, but his partner, he may look at that person as being his trophy. If let's say he has money, and he can be with a person who is very attractive, And he might objectify that person, or even if he doesn't have money or that much money, the Taurus person can, who is not at a higher level, can be very concerned with the physical appearance of their partner, and that is a big thing, a big attraction to them. And if something changes, that could be the person who is like, oh, well, I think I've fallen out of love with you. And, because they've gotten to be a certain age, or they've gotten to be a certain weight. And these kinds of people, what do we call them? We call them shallow. But unfortunately, it's because one of the reasons is because Taurus is an earth sign, and they tend to see everything in that 3D reality of like what is here now, and what do I value? Do I value ideas, or do I value things, tangible things? And it's like, I say this about Libra, the other sign that's ruled by Venus, where they have an aesthetic, where it's like if something doesn't look good to them, they don't necessarily value it, and that can lead to shallowness. But, the Venus idea of beauty being so important. And so there could be some kind of clash in that sense, where the Taurus person is looking at their partner as being their possession that they control. And that means that if their possession is talking to somebody else who's another potential partner, they have the right to come and get mad and pull their partner away and be very fear-based about losing their possession. And I'm really emphasizing possession, because the more that a person can be comfortable with the idea of non-ownership, I feel that they have a better chance of having a faithful partner than when they are fear-based and they're clinging and they're trying to keep that person at their hip, close by, where they can keep their tabs on them. And this doesn't just apply to fear of being cheated on or anything like that. I mean, this could even be with platonic friends. The Taurus person may resent if the Aquarian wants to go out with friends by themselves. They might think, the Taurus person might think, no, we are a couple, we do everything together. And the Aquarius person's like, no, we don't, just because we're in a partnership doesn't mean we have to do everything together. We can have our own friendships. We can have our own lives. That doesn't mean that I don't love you because I'm not doing everything with you. So that might be something that is really where they're very far apart in these areas. And it can turn off the Aquarius if the Taurus person is very possessive about that. And the last thing that I think can happen is if the Taurus person is not really an intellectual person, and it's not a given that that would be the case, because Taurus is right next to Gemini. And so a Taurus sun sign can have the moon in maybe the moon in a fire and air sign that has an intellectual bent, and maybe Mercury in Gemini, Venus or Mars in Gemini, and be a lot more involved or interested in learning new things and being very communicative. But if the Taurus person is the textbook Taurian, they are a child of the senses, and they love nature, and they love kind of, tuning, being in the outdoors, being in environments where they can listen to music and just chilling. Taurus is a sign that really likes to just luxuriate and chill. And they're not necessarily interested in intellectual pursuits, the way that Aquarius is. And Aquarius may not realize until, I don't want to say it's too late, it's never too late, but until later on, how much they miss that kind of intellectual rapport if they're not getting it from the Taurus person. The Taurus person may be irritated that the Aquarian always wants to have these long conversations or things like that because Taurus may not be plugged in that way. And that could be an area where they really are differing. And I think that this is more important than people give it credit for, because to me, and of course this is just my opinion, but I just feel that, being able to have meaningful conversations with your significant other is important. I have Mercury in the 7th house, so that's why I say that. I have had people tell me, I mentioned about people who go out to dinner and they don't talk to each other, having, witnessed that and thinking that, wow, that just seems kind of awkward and not something good. And I had somebody tell me, sometimes people, they're just like that. They don't need to always be talking, but they have like a comfort around each other. So I do want to acknowledge that that is a possibility and that it doesn't always have to be that people have to have these long conversations. So in any case, I think I'm going to leave it there. I hope that resonated with you. And if you are in a relationship where you feel like there are problems, but you can't pinpoint them, that's what I do in my relationship readings, love readings, whatever you want to call it. And you can check out that type of reading in my other readings below. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye.